Let's speak some more about this now to Bulama Bukarti, who's a peace and conflict analyst and human rights lawyer, joining us from London. Thank you for your time. Let's start with this latest operation, the unprecedented airstrikes by the U.S. on Nigerian territory. We have the Nigerian government, Bulama, describing this as a joint operation, but the statement the foreign minister released is somewhat vague. What does coordination typically mean in such an operation? Is it shared intelligence, joint targeting, or just merely consent by the Nigerians?
I mean, you are right. The Nigerian government said it was with its consent and cooperation that these strikes took place, but the statement doesn't go into details, and statements don't go into details in these kinds of environment. What I hope had happened was the U.S. government working closely with the Nigerian government in terms of the intelligence, in terms of deciding the precise location of targeting and also in launching the strikes. We have always maintained that there has been or there is still a problem in Nigeria, and U.S. and other international partners help can assist, but it has to be with the full consent and the knowledge and the involvement of the Nigerian government. And I am happy to see that Donald Trump listened.
Do you think in this case there was full consent, or were the Nigerians perhaps only partially informed about the timing or scale of these U.S. strikes?
To be honest, I don't know what might have happened, but if you remember in November, Donald Trump was hinting unilateral military action in Nigeria. And at the time, we warned that that was going to be counterproductive and is going to complicate issues on the ground. I am happy to see that he has listened. If you see, the timing of the Nigerian government statement was immediately after the strike, which indicates that the Nigerian government was aware. And I think the most important thing is Nigeria's sovereignty is respected,
right,
and that intelligence is obtained on the ground, and anything that is done with the consent and the cooperation of the Nigerian government. And that, I think that might be what has happened in this case.
If Nigeria provided intelligence, as they say, why avoid clearly naming ISIL in the official statement like the Americans are doing?
I think it is because the Nigerian government is aware that there are no significant ISIS presence. There is no significant ISIS presence in that part of Nigeria. In the northwest, what we have are criminal gangs, locally called bandits, and a recently popular group called the Lakurawa. The Lakurawa are a group of fighters who started crossing into Nigeria in 2018 from the Sahel. But over the past 18 months to 2 years, they have established camps in Sokoto State and Kebbi State in particular. And these strikes took place in Sokoto State. And I think what might have happened was that the U.S. government targeted the Lakurawa camps, and that is what they are calling ISIS, maybe for their American audience. But the Nigerian government knows that there is no clear evidence linking the Lakurawa with ISIS. They may be linked to ISIS, they may be linked to Al-Qaeda. Nobody knows. But ISIS presence significantly or mainly is in northeastern Nigeria. And I think if the Americans were targeting ISIS, they should have targeted the Zambiza forest and the Lake Chad region where ISIS is establishing courts and administering territories and also implementing its rapt interpretation of Islamic teachings in that part of Nigeria. That is where we should have.
Yeah, very interesting. This is very interesting and important what you're telling us there. In terms of who is being targeted in these attacks by the bandits, what do we know? Because the Americans claim they went in to protect Christians in Nigeria. Do we know for a fact that Christians are being targeted more so than other religious groups or other ethnic groups in Nigeria?
I mean, this Christian genocide or persecution narrative is a fundamental misrepresentation of the reality on the ground. For example, in Sokoto State, where we are talking about 80 to 90% of the population is Muslim. And when these attacks happen, they happen in the form of suicide attacks on markets, on bus garages, where they do not discriminate between Muslims and Christians. And the Nigerian government is very clear. The Nigerian people are very clear. Any step or any effort to help save the lives of civilians, Muslims and Christians in Nigeria is welcomed. this framing is wrong, but the action itself is right. We need help. We need the Nigerian government to work with international partners to help Nigerians, to save the life of Nigerian civilians, Muslims and Christians. And therefore, we don't see any of this effort as an effort to protect a specific religious faith. It is an effort to protect the whole of Nigeria, the whole of Nigerians, and every Nigerian has a right to live and to practice their faith and to go about their ordinary activities of life without attacks from anyone. And so these steps are, these strikes are a positive development, a positive step if it was precise, if it has hit the intended target, but we need to get more information. Transparency is fundamental in these kinds of situations. The Nigerian government and the American government need to be clear who was targeted, what was hit, were there any civilian casualties, and this strike have to be part of a broader strategy because you cannot bomb your way out of these kinds of security situations. We need to build local capacity.
Right.
We need to address the grievances, and we need to make sure that we have sustained effort against these groups rather than one-off airstrikes.
Right. That was going to be my final question, in fact, Bulama. I mean, as you said, we don't know the details of these strikes yet and the casualties, whether what they targeted, who they targeted, whether there were civilian casualties. But do you expect more U.S. strikes on Nigeria, a sovereign country with one of the largest militaries on the African continent? Or do you think this was meant as a one-off signal?
I mean, if these strikes have succeeded, we hope that they will take out the leadership and degrade the operational and the logistic capacity of these groups. And that then has to be followed up with sustained military action on the ground. If there were any more U.S. airstrikes, they should target Boko Haram and ISWAP in the jungles of the Zambeza forest and the Lake Chad region. That is where Nigeria's security problem is coming from. Or they should be targeting the bandits abducting thousands of Nigerians every year and extorting ransoms. Unfortunately, from Donald Trump's statement, this strike is intended to elicit headline and as a holiday message. That is how he ended his statement. But hopefully this is something that is more well-intentioned, and we hope that any action that may be taken will be in full coordination and cooperation with the Nigerian government, and those actions should be geared towards building local capacity rather than airstrikes from Spain or from wherever they might have come. Okay. We do have an issue. We need help, but we need to be listened to when we say we need that help. The Nigerian government should be the person to say this is where we need help, and the U.S. government should not see itself as a dictator to tell Nigeria what Nigeria wants.
Very good to talk to you about this. Thank you so much for your insight. Bulama Bukarti, a peace and conflict analyst, joining us there from London. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.